I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, April the 25th, brought to you in part by Specialty Risk Insurance. Specialty Risk is there to help cattlemen manage price risk one calf at a time. Check out their website for a one-stop shop for all your crop and livestock insurance needs at specialtyrisk.ag. Fragments detected. That's what the board crash on the back months was all about on Wednesday. Of course, if it hadn't been that, they'd have found something else. But you know, the board was up for 2 days to start the week, but we have historically light numbers on all classes of cattle to kind of justify that. But we always have to find some reason to break the board, and this time it was fragments detected, and we're back to the bird flu fiasco again. But they're calling it highly pathogenic avian influenza virus, and federal health officials discovered fragments of this H5N1 in some milk samples that they took at some of the hot dairies that had been detected as positive. But these fragments pose no threat to consumers at all. And even your federal agencies said that too, that they don't pose any threat at all. It's just and then we had one milk site say that the fragments are just evidence that the virus is indeed dead and it doesn't hurt anything. So what's the worry? But you got to be worried about something. So now, before interstate movement of dairy cattle, they have to be tested negative for this H5N1, and then they have to provide transparency. The dairies that have had it have to provide transparency of where they've gone before. So I mean, but we don't move dairy cows around that much. All of them have electronic ID tags, so it should be a snap, right? Because they've been telling us that we all need electronic ID tags so we can travel the traceability. So I mean, that should be absolutely nothing. Just be like pulling the pulling the maps up on your phone, and you can get it right there, I assume, because everybody says that's what we need. But it's going to be kind of a pain in the ass for whenever you have dispersals and things like that. And that's how those other states became active premises, other than Texas, New Mexico, and Kansas, is because they had relocated some cows up there, and they had spread it up there to some dairies, but that were outside the circle in the Southwest. But I thought it was interesting that one scientist said, "We don't know enough about natural history of bird flu in cows." Exactly. We don't know. You know, these fragments could have been in there all along. We never done any testing on it. I talked to people that said that they think that they've seen the traces of the bird flu virus show up in cows 20, 30, 40 years ago. But until you get all those agencies involved and they get it documented, then they're going to try to make a big deal out of it. But that is going to be a pain to test all of them, and to test them, it's not a blood test, it's a milk test. So that's going to be kind of a different type of a thing. What does any of this have to do with beef cattle? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely, literally nothing. Milk and beef don't even go together that great. So I don't know why it's breaking the cattle board. It's just like I've always said, you just have to have pure D, supply and demand, to make the cattle board go up, and anything, literally anything, can make it come back down. But as of Wednesday, the USDA had confirmed the virus in 33 dairy cattle premises in 8 different states. Of course, Texas, New Mexico, and Kansas, and then Idaho, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, and South Dakota. So those are the states that if you want to move any dairy cattle, you're going to have them tested and go through the whole rigmarole. Make sure that you've got it documented. There's going to be mandatory reporting of any movement of those cows. The states that have not had a positive case, they may give them leeway where they don't have to do it. But like I said, there's not much reason to move dairy cows around other than when you have a dispersal or whenever you ship them to the packer, or if you go to a sale barn. That it could be a pain for those sale barns, those cattle sale barns that sell a lot of dairy cattle. I'm not sure. They're probably going to have those tested there, and it might be better for your cow packers because they probably wouldn't have to be tested to go straight to kill. But and maybe they can just designate them kill only at that sale barn, and like they do a lot of times with other type of outbreaks. But it's just something that stirs up, that has something to do with cows, and so it's going to be hard on your cattle markets, and it sure was on Wednesday. Basically took everything back that we'd gained one day earlier in the week. But just got back from 2 days at the Hemp Hill beef cattle conference there, and I was very impressed with it. First time I'd ever gone to that conference, and I mean a lot of ranchers and producers there. Of course, a lot of establishments still around, just like if you were going to a NCBA type deal, but there was some others there too, and really grassroots people and some grassroots vendors, and they had a lot of interesting speakers there. I told you about Kaylee McEnany on her last visit. She had an interesting message of faith there. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who I'm proud to be a constituent of, he is our U.S. representative, and of course he's the one that gave the physicals to the presidents. Remember, gave the physical to Trump, and it kind of got blowed out because they said he was really healthy, and I don't know, he looks pretty healthy to me. But Dr. Ronnie Jackson, he's a good one, and we like him, and he fits right in there with us, and we were glad to have him there. I meant to tell you, and I talked to several people there that had been involved in the fire, and talked to one young lady there on Wednesday, and gosh, her stories were just very moving. She was, they were trying to get their horses out of the fire. They only had 2 ways out from their home, not far from Canadian. They tried to go one way, it was blocked, and they went the other way and ran into a wall of fire. And I mean, she was in a 3/4 ton pickup with a steel gooseneck and full of horses, and when that wind gets mixed with that fire, evidently it makes it so much stronger, and she said it just pushed her off the road whenever that big ball of fire that was stirred up in that wind hit. You know, it melted the floor in the trailer, it warped the aluminum trailer down the side. Didn't do the horses any favors there. The pickup wouldn't start the next time she went to use it, and been in the shop ever since and can't get it to start. But you know, they lost, that family lost 70 or 80 head of cows there, and she was just sick about that. And I mean, it was a bad deal. But the pastures, I mean, we know how things can snap back, and you know, you get up in the Flint Hills and places, and they burn those pastures every year, but they've got that tall, thicker grass. Now, it is beautiful where the fires were in the northeast Texas Panhandle. It's beautiful. It's green, but it's not lush. It's green and really thin. And I'm being told, or from what I hear, you have to really manage that, or else later on in this summer, the weeds will come out, and big weeds, and choke that grass completely out. You've got to really manage that, and really need to go 2 years without grazing it to try to get it built back up. But that stockpiled grass that they had in that part of the country, which they're not used to, was just too much fuel for those high winds and when the fire took out. But it does look like XL Electric is going to be willing to pick up part of the tab. They have pretty much claimed responsibility, and they want you to send their claims in. Of course, there's a lawsuit in there that some people have signed up for. Some people had insurance, some people didn't, but there's been a lot of really people being generous and giving a lot. I drove by a couple of places where they were dropping hay, and there was a considerable amount of round bales still sitting there, but there were still people coming in there and picking it up and taking it to where they needed it. But it's kind of an interesting place to have that conference, and like I said, I did enjoy it, and the food was outstanding. Let's talk about your board on Wednesday. April live cattle futures down $1.25 at 182.10. June was down 190 at 175.25. Your back months were down 120 to down 212. April feeder cattle were down 65 cents at 243.10. They've got to stay pretty close to that CME feeder cattle index, because that's going to come together here pretty quick, guys. May feeder cattle down 195 at 244.10, and your back months on feeder cattle down hard after we gained so much on Tuesday. Took most of it back on Wednesday, down 270 to down 310. May corn futures down 5 1/4 cents a bushel at 437 3/4. May beans down 1.5 cents at 11.66. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for May up 15.5 cents a bushel at 624 1/4. Fat cattle trade, we did have people weaken and already sell out for steady and lower money just because the board crashed on Wednesday there. But it's sure hard to get any grip on this market when you got people that just give up that easy. Nebraska sold 600 head at 182 and 290, which would be lower for them, but not enough to establish a market. But the market's already established in the Southern Plains. Kansas sold 7,000, 180 to mostly 182. That's steady with last week, where it looked like we were going to gain $1 to $2, but they just watch that board like a hawk. Texas 4,300. Hell, that's about as many as they sell any time in a week's time, and they were at 180 to 182 for the most part, and that was also steady. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, Worthing, South Dakota had a fat cattle sale where people actually bid against one another for the fat cattle. I mean, it's a real novel idea there, and they had conventional fat cattle selling $2 to $4 higher, from 182 to 189. And your program drug-free or non-implanted cattle sell from 184.5 to 190.75. Over $8 higher than what they're selling them for in the Southern Plains. But box beef cutout values were lower on Wednesday. Choice cuts down 166 at 295.74. Selects down 234 at 290.42. Your slaughter is catching up after a kind of a dismal Monday with that one cow plant down, but through the first 3 days of the week, 363,000 estimated harvest. That's just 6,000 less than last week and 12,000 less than the same week a year ago. Don't forget about our Punchy Pick of the Month contest. We get them in pretty regular. We get a few in every day, and we love to see them. Just take a punchy pick when you're out doing your chores, working cattle, whatever you're doing with your phone. Email that punchy pick to punchy at NationalBeefWire.com, and you're automatically entered to win. The grand prize winner, of course, gets the cool swag from Beaver Feed Company in Beaver, Oklahoma, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, and then the whole case of Therapies, the revolutionary product that's scientifically proven. It's pheromones that you just apply topically to the pole and the muzzle of cattle, and it calms them down. And they have since last fall, they have been frantically trying to increase production of that product, because people are finding out how well it works, and they're wanting to be able to meet demand. And you guys got to try it. It's $3 a dose. You can't afford not to try it if it does it any good at all, and a lot of people are swearing by it, guys. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 245.82. That was up 11 cents compared to the end of Tuesday's trade. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index was 242.64. It's going to be up next time, so you guys need to be watching that, how the real-time index leads that CME feeder cattle index, especially if you're going to be cashing out at LRP. Talk about your big sales on Wednesday. Of course, OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, they had 10,100 head. Now, all your big sales have been lighter, and then they underestimated big time for the Wednesday sale. They had kind of a light run of calves, but like 8,600 feeder cattle on Wednesday ended up with 10,100 for the week. Great market in El Reno. I mean, just a really outstanding sale this week. Feeder steers are $5 to $7 higher. Spots as much as $10 higher on grazing type stockers. Feeder heifers $2 to $5 higher. They've got northern interest there, guys. And you get in there, if those cattle are mostly black, got some quality to them, they're headed north. Calves $3 to $5 higher on Tuesday. OKC West was your National Beef Wire stick out sale of the day, and you look up there and you see about 8,600 head just for Wednesday's sale. And there's no calves in this because this is just pulled from the Wednesday sale, but you look how well tested it is on feeder weights and some heavier stockers. 459 head of 6-weight steers averaged 672 at 270.37. There was 557 head of 7-weight steers averaged 756 at 253.76. 1,154 head of 8-weight steers in El Reno, Oklahoma averaged 853 pounds with a weighted average price of $234.62, and nearly 1,600 head of 9-weight steers at OKC West, El Reno Livestock Market. They averaged 948 at $216.15. 917 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 662 at $243.83. 1,519 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 756 at $228.05. And 1,525 head of 8-weight heifers averaged $835 in El Reno, Oklahoma, with a weighted average price of $214.73. Give you some individual quotes from all around, and they were very impressive while the board was going down in a big way, guys. How about Torrington Livestock Market in Torrington, Wyoming? On heifers, 51 head of heifers weighed 624 and bring 292. You think that has to be replacements, and they were not marked replacements by the Federal State Market Reporter, but sure feel like they would have had to have been, but it's a big price on heifers regardless. Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota. Greg Ryken's got good fat cattle sales. He's got good feeder specials too. He sells 298 head of 913 pound steers at $247.60. That's $2 higher than your 800 pound index, guys. I'm just cattle weighing way over 9. But Bassett was very, very impressive. Bassett Livestock Auction, 250 head of 631 pound steers bring 333 1/4 in Bassett. They had 232 head of 715 pound steers bring 305.75, and 61 steers weighed 860 at 257.50. You think, my gosh, that was a big top quote. That wasn't the top quote for the day, guys. The most impressive quote I saw around on Wednesday in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day come out of Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas. They sell 57 steers, weighed 829 at 263. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.